So today we are honored with the episode today with Gary, a great entrepreneur and a business leader. We will know everything about how business is run and how to improve. Gary, could you please introduce yourself and what do you do for business?
Yeah, of course. Good morning. I run a training consultancy, so we look at three main areas: sales and management, and everything that comes under that. Also, a lot of health and safety and fire. And my third area is mindset, and having a great mindset, which of course overlaps into everything else that I do, the sales and the health and safety as well.
Before we delve into that, could you tell us more about your personal experience and how did you come to the point where you're able to deliver help for the other businesses?
I think having left education, and most of us fall into a job somewhere. There's not many people that know from a very early age what they want to do. If I'm honest, I'm still looking to understand what I want to do. But I think you go into a job and then you start to think, I like this part, but I don't particularly like this part. So you go through life chopping and changing until you find something that is your passion. And of course, there's the old quote that says, if you're doing a job that is your passion, then it's not actually a job. And probably for the last 20 or so years, I've just followed my passion. And I love training people. I've got to that stage in my life now that I get a tremendous amount of motivation and self happiness from watching others grow.
So let's relate this to your training for mindset. Like, can people work first and then they can discover what they like, or should they just start like after graduation by what they like?
I think most people have an idea what they'd like to do, but often they don't know how to get into it. And my answer generally is just go for it. Um, we are programmed, we tend to be programmed in this world to follow money. Apparently, money is going to make you really happy. Well, I've got news for people. It helps. Let's not get away from that. It does help. We need money, but we don't need thousands, tens of thousands, millions. Because, again, you've only got to look at the people that are very wealthy financially. Are they always happy? And you know what? They're still going to die one day. And as far as I know, we cannot take that wealth with us. So it's really about finding what you love to do and just follow your passion, but have an idea in your mindset what it is you do want to do.
So my next question: how many challenges have you faced till this phase in your life, in your business career? I mean.
Millions, absolutely millions. But again, we're living in challenging times right now. And the easiest thing to do is to turn around and say, well, this won't happen or that won't happen. I prefer to turn around and think, okay, this is where I am at the moment. What do I need to do? What frame of mind, what mindset do I need to get me to the next stage? And then once you've worked that out, and believe me, people that tell me I can't work that out, it will come to you. It will come to you. And if you haven't worked it out today, it will possibly come to you tomorrow. Then you've just got to keep following that instinct, that passion, because there are challenges everywhere. There are loads and loads, thousands, millions of people in the world that will tell you it won't happen. And my attitude is I ignore those people. I'll take advice, but I'll generally ignore the people that tell me I can't do this or can't do that, because generally there is a way that we can do it. But we give up. I think as a human race, we give up a little bit too easy.
Oh yeah. Okay. So what about your recommendations for fresh graduates? What kind of mindset should be focused on, should be grown?
I think the mindset is, yeah, the word manifestation. So visualization. Once you've got an idea of where you want to be in the future, what's going to make you happy, what's going to give you your passion, then it's very easy advice. Go for it. Just go and do it. There's again lots of people that will give you loads of reasons why it can't be done, but this is about you. This is not about all those other people. And most people that give you advice, certainly in business, generally are the ones that haven't done it themselves. Um, so I know you mentioned the word entrepreneur earlier. Everyone is an entrepreneur, but some people don't have that, if you like, that gift, that passion to go and realize it. But we are all phenomenal people, and it's about just go for it. It won't always work. If you look at some of the top performers in the world in terms of business, sports, did they always get it right? No, of course not. But they've got that mental resilience, and we're hearing that word even more now, resilience. They've got that mental resilience that they can stand up and try again and just adapt. I love the quote from Edison, Thomas Edison, who invented the light bulb. And people said to him back then, there's a story about how many times he didn't get it right. And they said, why don't you just give up? It can't be done. And he said, I've taken 1,000 times, a thousand failures. And Thomas Edison turned around and said, no, 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 I didn't fail. I learned 1,000 ways how not to make a light bulb. But he didn't just keep repeating it. It didn't work, so he changed it. No, it still doesn't work. Let's change this bit. Doesn't work. Let's change this. And eventually he got a light bulb, and we're quite grateful that he did that. But again, another great example of someone that never gave up.
So my other question here is about the people who have who are already in their employment, in their jobs. What kind of mentality, like after you have grown up in your work or in your job, then you are settled, then let's say you would not venture into other areas, or you would not venture to change your job or have other dreams. What do you think?
I think that's a very fair point. I think what happens is we get stuck in a rut, we get conditioned, and we start to believe our own mindset that says you've done this job for 20 years, that's all you know. Um, that's not my mindset. If I've done various things in my life, but if something's not working, again, I change it. Life is too short. You know, we are, I don't want to keep talking about death, but we are all going to die one day, as far as I'm aware. I actually think I'm immortal, but we are all going to die one day, and it's about enjoying yourself while you are here, without doubt. So, what would my advice to them would be is if you're doing something that you don't love, then start to make steps to change your path. And the first step I would certainly say is in your mind. Visualize and see yourself doing what you'd love to do, and that's the first step.
Yeah. So to another branch of your training about management, how would you evaluate the current situation in the light of COVID-19 currently?
Management in terms of anyone in particular, or generally in terms of people?
Yeah, generally.
Generally, I mean, management has been around forever. There are some great managers out there. There's some that aren't so good. My concern with management, certainly in the UK, is that very often managers are promoted to a management position without any training. And they're normally put into that position because they're very good at their job. And as we know, you can be really good at your job, but as soon as you put in that human emotion that you are now responsible for other people in your team, that's when it can start to unfold without training. Because you are part of the team, but now as a manager, you've stepped out of that team. So my tips for management: A, get trained. It's about communication, and of course, communication is two-way. It's not just one way. I've seen people in my life, managers, that just turn into bullies in terms of you will do this. Well, no, it's not like that. Communication is both ways. And if you have great communication and you ask good questions, you will actually get a lot more buy-in from the team working with you than you will by just telling. So I think this it's important to get that two-way communication going.
And so, from your point of view, what are the main weaknesses and the main strengths of managers?
Main weakness is two big things here: the wrong people into the wrong roles, so that the wrong managers into the wrong role, and I've just mentioned it, training. You wouldn't expect to become an accountant, a doctor, a dental surgeon. You wouldn't expect any of these roles without training. And yet all of a sudden we put people into management positions without training, which when I put it like that sounds absolutely ludicrous, but it does happen far too often. So go and get yourself trained. There's If you want to come to a face-to-face training, that's absolutely fine. You can do programs. There's a load of online training now. There's loads of books about management. But of course, it's about being collaborative and pick up what other great managers are doing. If you consider that most of us have worked for some poor managers, some really good ones. Think about the good ones. Why were they good? Well, I guarantee you probably because they communicated, they delegated tasks, they had respect, integrity, honesty. So if you can take all the traits from those good managers and adapt them for yourself, so much the better.
And what have you learned about good managers? Like, are there certain tips?
Uh, Questions. That's the good managers that I've worked with in the past. It is about the questions they ask, and you can of course ask the right question in the right way to get the right answer. But what you need to do is understand what you want your team or those people to do, and then phrase your question. Generally, in my experience, just to tell someone to do something doesn't work because straight away the barriers come up. People generally don't like being told what to do. But if you ask them in a nice way, in a firm, assertive way, then generally, and they can see the benefit of why they're doing it, then you can understand that. Certainly at the moment, with certainly the UK government in terms of COVID-19, there's an awful lot of resistance to the tier system, the lockdowns, the vaccinations. And I put that down to the leadership and the management that have generally got or perceived ulterior motives, do not answer questions, and it's more of a tell rather than ask. And at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We all like to be part of.
And how, let's say, what kind of skills like appeared with COVID-19, and what kind of skills will be more important in the future after COVID-19?
I think after COVID-19, and of course we will get there. It's going to be online. It's going to be things like this. You know, who would have ever thought I'm speaking to you from London to Cairo
Sure.
on a Wednesday morning? Um, Online technology. Personally, I love walking into a training room. We're social animals. We love to be with other people. But in the meantime, we can use Zoom and Teams and all these other wonderful technological advancements. But I think certainly the online presence is going to become more and more prevalent. Um, it shouldn't replace face-to-face interaction. And there's a lot of talk, certainly in the UK economy, about people now working at home. Well, I think that's, again, personally speaking, that's also going to lead to an awful lot of mental health issues because, as I said earlier, we are all humans. We're social beings. We're not loners, most of us. We need to interact. And of course, we pick up so much from each other. So what's going to happen after COVID-19? We're still going to be Zooming. I hope not quite as much, but I would say for any businesses, managers out there, please get yourself up to date with the technology. It's no good people my age turning around saying I'm too old for a variety. No, it's here and it's going to be here for a long time yet.
In terms of the third branch you give trainings on, what kind of safety training do you provide?
Generally, it's general health and safety and fire. So not in. I'm not very much into the what I'd call specialised areas. I leave that to the experts. Things like asbestos and a lot of construction, but general health and safety, which surrounds all of us, certainly within the UK, UK law says that everyone, employees and employers, all have a duty of care. So it's about looking out for people. Um, People will say there's always a cost to it. There's a cost to everything, but
Yeah.
what cost is a life? What cost is a life? And I would urge people really, when you go to work in the morning or at night, if you're on a night shift, most of these people that are going out to work have families. Their families love them, they want them back in one piece. They want to be able to go to work in a safe manner, do their work, be paid for it, and go home to their families in a safe, healthy manner. So it's really about setting down some processes about slips, trips, and falls, general accidents that can happen, and obviously having procedures in place that if something does happen, that we get those people out of it as quick as we can and get them back to full fitness. Fire wise, it's really about preventing fires from starting. But of course, if they do start, safety of people. And I always say on all of my courses, I really don't care about buildings, which sounds quite harsh, but buildings are buildings and we can replace them. You'll recall a couple of years ago, Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, major fire in there. And the whole world was saying, this is tragic, this is awful, it's an old building. And I turned around and said, it's a building. We can replace it. No one died in it, which is fantastic. Um, where people die in buildings, fires because they haven't got suitable and sufficient escape routes, that's a tragedy. The building is concrete, brick, glass, metal. We can rebuild it. What we cannot do yet is bring those people back. So I'm quite passionate about fire and fire safety. And strange enough, wherever I go, because it's my passion as well, wherever I go, I'm always checking out fire doors and fire exits. And in my subconscious, I'll look around a room and I think there's a fire exit over there, just in case I need it.
Okay, and what kind of precautions are more necessary with the current pandemic?
Current pandemic, I think there's certainly in the UK, there's a lot of people working from home. And of course, you're still technically at work whilst you're at home. People are sitting, health and safety wise, and fire, people are sitting on sofas, settees, dining room tables with their laptop out, um, possibly hunched over, so they get musculoskeletal injuries. And of course, whilst you're at work, that is still your duty, but also the duty of your employer. So I've put a few risk assessments out earlier during the COVID pandemic. If anyone wants a copy of those and the things to look out for if you are working at home, more than happy to send them to people free of charge. That's no problem. I think people feel that when they're at home, if they're working from home, they don't worry so much about what could go wrong because they should feel safe in their home. But of course, because of COVID and the amount of people that are working at home, accidents can happen anywhere, and fires don't care whether you're at home or at work in a workplace. The other danger, of course, is as we get back to some normality and we start to go back to workplaces, again, full risk assessments need to be done, which doesn't take forever, but they need to be updated and reviewed on a regular basis.
Well, what are your main recommendations through that report you have prepared about these precautions?
The main recommendation is periodically, whether that be once a day, once a week, just look around you. Just look around you. What are you likely to trip up? What are you likely to knock into? What are you likely to fall over? That's a very basic view of health and safety. Um, Look above, look below, look in, and just see what's out there. Um, because if you're aware of these things, you are generally less likely to actually do it.
What else would you like to add about your trainings today, Gary?
What else was I just? What else can I add to it? Let me think. It's really a case of there's some great training providers out there. Um, I suppose one of my big learnings in life now that I'd like to say middle-aged rather than old, middle-aged, that will do. When I was very young, I went to school, etc., did my education, and I thought I knew everything. The older I get, the more I realise there is so much more to learn out there. And every day there is something else to learn. So these people that say, no, I've done that, I've trained in that, you've got to keep it up to date. You've got to refresh. Strange enough, on LinkedIn, I put something out yesterday or the day before, I think, about refresher training. How everything, first aid, health and safety, management, most things we do refresher training on, other than driving a car. And when you're 17 in the UK and you pass your driving test, you don't do any refresher training until, well, until you finish driving, which is crazy because there's always something out there to learn. So my advice, read a lot, speak to other people. Every day, I guarantee you, I will learn something new that I can use in my everyday life, something else that will enhance my life, and I hope that of others around me.
It has been an inspiration and more than awesome talking to you, Gary, today, and these great ideas about your trainings. Thank you so much for that indeed.
You're more than welcome and great to meet you. Thank you.